Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 60, the final episode of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. Before I jump into the movie and other things that I want to say, I'd like to have one last shout out, one last tip of the cap to my good friends over at Third Eye Comics. I mention in every episode, and it's intentional, I mention them in every episode because they're sponsoring the podcast. And I've never had a sponsor before, and I don't think I will again, just because it's not like a huge podcast. It's a fine podcast. People enjoy it, and that's all that matters. But I don't think I'm actually going to have a chance to get a sponsor again. But money has been tight. Life has been challenging. It's not been good. And in order to have a chance to make the podcast, to pay for the server costs, I reached out to Third Eye Comics because I go there, I shop there. I'm friends with the owner. And I thought, maybe they would like to have a presence on their show because people will listen to this forever. Last year I didn't do a proper series. And I had the most downloads I've ever had in December. And I thought that kind of thing might, intrigue a business. So I reached out to Third Eye and I said, hey, is there any chance that you'd be interested in sponsoring this show? And he said, yeah. So then they did. They sponsored it. They gave me actual money so that I could pay for the server costs to have this show exist. All because they're watching out for me. And then there's a business opportunity because maybe you'll hear this and you'll hear me talk about them and talk about why I like them and talk about the things that they have available. And maybe you'll spend some money there. So it's not like, they're only doing me a favor. But the point is, without them, this season wouldn't have existed. I wouldn't have found the money to be able to afford to pay for the server costs. All because of them. So for the last time in this series, I'm going to say thank you to Third Eye Comics and urge you, if you're looking for anything in the world of comics, gaming, music, movies, pop culture, snacks, T-shirts, whatever you can think of, they have something like that. Check them out at one of their multitude of DC, Maryland, or Virginia stores, or check them out online at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. Again, that is shop.thirdeyecomics.com. And as I've said many times before, if you can and if you have an interest in doing so, support them because they most definitely supported me. Now let's move on. We're not ready to talk about the movie yet. We're going to talk about how this is the last episode of the season. This is the last episode of season 4, and almost certainly this will be the last time I endeavor to do this stupid task again. Watching this many movies in this many days, it takes over your life. It's not fun, but it is a challenge, and I like challenges. I like doing things that are hard, and it kind of helps you evolve. It helps you grow. It helps you problem solve. It helps you figure things out for yourself. And so I decided to do a 4th series of this because so many other things in my life were not going well, and they still aren't, honestly. But I thought, why not try this again? It brings me a lot of joy. It brings me a lot of joy to do this. With the tasks, the multiple steps of each task. Now, if you download this podcast as part of a subscription, there's a good chance that you see there's individual art for each and every episode. I make individual art for each and every episode. And so it's just, why do I do it? Because it makes me laugh. I paste my head over somebody else's body, all because it gives me a chuckle. So there's been 60 movies I've watched, 60 podcasts I've recorded, 60 pieces of art that I've made, 60 podcasts I've edited, and eventually all of those come together to being 60 podcasts I publish. And that's a lot to do. I had so many grand ideas about making fun videos for each movie, or at least one movie a week, and I quickly lost all hope of doing that, because this becomes everything that I do. Every day becomes about watching a movie, becomes about recording a podcast. Eventually, I just sort of made a deal with myself that I'd watch as many movies as I could and record the podcast when I can. And that plan, it seems to have worked out, because here we are on Christmas Day. I'm recording this for the first time in the 4 seasons that I've been doing this. The first time I've watched and recorded a podcast for every single movie. It's going to end on time for the very first time. And that makes me very proud. It makes me very happy. So I should probably wrap this part of the podcast up, but I just want to say thank you for listening. Thanks for your support. Thanks for following along. And I hope that you got something out of this. I hope you had some fun hanging out. I hope the shorter episodes weren't too much of a bummer. It's just how they worked out this time. Either I've gotten better at taking notes or I've gotten worse. I'll let you be the judge of that. Let's move on to today's movie. A terrible choice for a movie, The Case of the Christmas Diamond. Now, why do I say it's a terrible choice for a movie? Because I thought it would be fun. It is a mystery. It's a genuine mystery movie. I thought this will be fun. It'll give me something else to watch. I'm tired of all these, romantic movies. I'm tired of all these rom-coms. I'm tired of silliness. Let's just watch something that's going to be a different flavor. Not necessarily better, just different. Unfortunately, this resulted in a movie that was almost impossible to take notes about. It was so overwhelmingly confusing about what to write down, what not to write down. So I say this now. These notes are going to be a mess. I say this because I don't want them to be a mess, but I know it may be hard to follow along. And if it is, I apologize. If it is, just know that I did my best in this last episode of Season 4 to watch a different movie and to record a good podcast, and only one of those may end up being true. The Case of the Christmas Diamond. We open with a house in chaos. The mother of the family shouts, "Someone stole the Christmas diamond." We then get a message on screen that reads 6 hours earlier. We follow our main character, Andy, driving along the highway as she listens to an audiobook mystery. Eventually, she arrives at a big-ass house with a security gate. Just as she's ready to use the intercom, the gate opens on its own. When she parks, she immediately is greeted by her friend Olivia, who thanks her for joining her family for Christmas. So what this is Andy is visiting her friend and going to stay with her friend's very wealthy, very fancy house, very fancy family for Christmas. And Olivia is grateful to have a friend that she can hang out with during the chaos of Christmas. Then we start meeting some characters. There's Olivia's Uncle Gary, who's hanging Christmas lights, and there's the butler Bridget, who brings Andy's bags in. We learn there's a whole itinerary for the week all planned out. It's officially December 22nd, and the first night will be game night. The second night would be, I think, it might be the 23rd. But then basically they have everything planned out, and we'll get to it all the way through Christmas. We learn that Olivia's brother, remember Olivia is Andy's friend. Olivia's brother Liam is so immature. How immature is he, Joe? Well, he's so immature that he still has his mail sent to his mom's address. This is not very important, but it does show us that he was waiting on an envelope that has DNA information about himself. Think of it like 23andMe, some sort of family tree type of website that he's used and has some sort of results having been mailed to him at his mom's address. We also learn that Andy is worried about not fitting in amongst the hoity-toity rich people. Next, we meet the chef, who's a Michelin star chef. His name is Raphael. We finally do meet Liam, Olivia's brother. He runs into Andy literally while on the phone, and then they make eyes at each other. Olivia notices the sparks between them and makes a note to say Liam recently broke off his engagement and therefore is available if you're interested, Andy. Then we meet Olivia's mom, who is not a big fan of Andy staying there at the house. We find out that her mom is a jerk. Her mom is a full-fledged jerk to basically everybody. There's a lot of classist type of put-downs that she uses, especially towards Andy, and not like veiled. She's like, okay, well, fine. Andy can stay here, but make sure she doesn't steal anything. We also see the titular Christmas diamond being presented to Olivia's mom. The butler brings it in and tells Olivia's mom that she is ensured that it was cleaned pristinely and it's ready for the party tonight. Cut to Andy getting settled in her room. She looks at a cabinet full of valuable figurines. She picks one up to look at it more closely and then hears a sound out in the hallway area. In her startled state, she pockets the figurine, which obviously is going to lead to her being suspected of trying to steal it. And I got so mad at this movie that I almost stopped it. But the problem was I'd already made the art for the movie. So that means if I have to pick a new movie, 1, I have to figure out what movie to watch. 2, I then have to go in and, redo the art and start a whole movie over, start my notes over. And I just got so mad at this movie for doing something so dumb as to have her accidentally put a whole ceramic figurine in her real pocket. Who would do that? It's a figurine. That thing's going to be so weighty in your pocket, so big. Anyway, Andy walks off to investigate the sound she heard and ends up just wandering around the house. She ends up in Olivia's mom's office, and wouldn't you know it, just then Olivia's mom walks in. But she's not alone. She introduces Andy to Detective Billings. This is not really important in this scene, but it just goes to show that she has a friend on the police force. Olivia uses this to sort of intimidate Andy into not stealing from her, which is admittedly weird. And the detective is all like, I'm sure this young lady is no criminal. We see more cars arriving at the big estate. These are mostly filled with presents, but they're also filled with Uncle Gary's wife and daughter. They are not significant parts of the movie, but they will only be called Uncle Gary's wife and Uncle Gary's daughter, just because we don't need more character names. Then we meet author Jackie Evanson. She is the very mystery writer that Andy was listening to on her drive to the estate. Andy cannot believe she gets a chance to spend some time with her favorite writer. Apparently, she's friends with Olivia's mom. Finally, we meet the last character that we're going to have to worry about. That would be Amelia Vanderkamp. She is Liam's former fiancée, and Liam's mom has invited her there with an eye toward getting these two back together. Liam says, without any question, that he has no interest in getting back together with Amelia. Eventually, when everyone is in their places, they are all called to the dining room for a feast. As the family settles in, we get some bickering from Olivia's mother and Uncle Gary. They are brother and sister. There's an implication that Uncle Gary and his family are there to ask for money for some venture. After dinner, we get some character work from the different people, basically showing like, I'm the selfish one, I'm the airheaded one, I'm the, I don't know, you pick a characteristic. We get some time at the characters to show off who they are. For example, we learn that Liam is a heavy gambler. As people chat, Andy hears a sound outside and goes to check a nearby window. Just then, in bursts a man dressed as Santa Claus, scaring her half to death. This is Uncle Gary dressed as Santa Claus. Everyone laughs at Andy for being scared. Liam explains that every year Santa delivers the games for game night, and as the newest attendee to the family Christmas, Andy gets to pick which game they play. Andy chooses an off-brand version of Clue called like Who Done It. The mystery writer is excited to play this game, but then Olivia's mother says, no, I want to play a different game. I'm going to call it Windfall. She explains that she's had a very good year financially and has a game in mind where the winner will get something very special from her. Her Christmas diamond necklace. Everyone gasps. And to continue the tradition, she says Andy's going to get to choose who gets the diamond. Now, when this originally aired, this was on TV. So at this point, there was a commercial break. And then when we come back from commercial break, she basically says, Andy, who do you want to have this? And everybody has been pitching themselves. Like, I should get it because I know how to turn it into good money. I should get it because it'll help me start a new business. I should get it because whatever, right? So she asks her, Andy, who should get this diamond necklace? And Andy says, gosh, I don't even know where to begin. And then Olivia's mom is like, well, it doesn't matter because I would be a fool to let you choose. I am going to choose who gets this diamond necklace. And in fact, I choose nobody because nobody is worthy of this diamond necklace. It's so stupid and so ham-handed and so unnecessary to string you along when they could have just had her say, you know, what's the point of the game? Is she just being mean to people? Like, if you step outside of the world of this movie for just a second, let's reflect on what Olivia's mom has done. Everybody's there, it's game night, and we're supposed to play a game. She interrupts the choosing of the games to say, I have another game in mind. It's a game where I'm going to play, where I've done well for myself financially, and I want to reward a member of this group with a basically something that'll make you a little bit wealthier. My super diamond necklace, the Christmas diamond. Now, I'm not going to choose who gets this because that may be unfair. So I'm going to have this newest member of our group, Andy, who I spit upon basically when I first met her. I'm going to have her select who gets this. Psych, I'm not going to have her select who gets this. I'm going to select who gets this. And I select nobody because nobody deserves this. What is the plot here? What's the plan? None of that makes any sense when you add it all together. Anyway, after she says nobody deserves it, everybody starts yelling. In the commotion, Bridget the butler accidentally spills a drink on Uncle Gary's wife, and when somebody says, I forget who it was, somebody says, I've fired help for less than that. Olivia's mom says, you know what, that's a good point. Bridget the butler, you're fired. Bridget walks away very sad. Andy, who is our main character and who's like the innocent one of this group, says, but it's Christmas. And Olivia's mother says, yes, and never forget your place. And I guess that's just basically saying, like, don't forget where you belong in our hierarchy. The group breaks up and we settle on Andy talking to Liam. We see that his ex-fiancée, Amelia, is not happy to see Liam talking to Andy. Anyway, Liam is really happy that Andy is there and is going hard with the flirting. They end up standing beneath the mistletoe and even share a kiss. Liam's ex-fiancée leaves the room in disgust. After chatting some more, Andy decides to go and make some fancy coffee for everybody. As she gets ready to start the machine, the power goes out in the whole gosh darn house. Andy notices a running car outside of the house. Who is that, she asks. Eventually, Uncle Gary makes his way into the basement and flips the breaker. The power is restored. But then a blood-curdling scream is heard, and suddenly we're back at the beginning of the movie when Olivia's mother runs out and tells everyone that her Christmas diamond is missing. Andy tells Liam that she noticed a car outside, and a group races out to catch the car, but the car is already gone. Then we get people searching all of the nooks and crannies of the house looking for the diamond. Olivia's mother declares that until they determine who took the diamond, no one can leave, and then she locks the front gate and says everyone must stay until it's determined who took it. Angie and the mystery writer basically team up to figure this out, to solve this mystery, and they start watching and listening to the people around them. People keep talking, going back and forth, accusing each other of taking the diamond. Andy eventually says everyone should search their own rooms. Now, I misunderstood her. She doesn't mean go in there and search your own room. She means we, as a group, should start searching people's rooms. Olivia's mom thinks that's a good idea, but she doesn't trust Andy to go do this. Instead, she sets her friend, the mystery writer, to do this for her. But the mystery writer, who likes Andy, says, well, I'm only going to do it if Andy can help. And Olivia's mom acquiesces, and so then we follow the mystery writer and Andy going through people's rooms. As they search rooms, Andy hears a sound in a nearby room. She goes in and finds Bridget, the former butler, hiding. Cut to Bridget, the butler, being interrogated by Olivia's mom. She promises she didn't take the diamond. She only returned to the house after the power went out, and the car that was waiting was actually waiting for her. She'd called it to take her home. But in all the commotion, she ended up not catching the ride and came back to get something she forgot. The mystery writer and Olivia's mom seem to believe Bridget, the butler. In fact, Olivia's mom says since she's stuck there with the rest of them, she may as well help out and rehires her on a probationary basis. Amelia, Liam's former fiancée, walks in and says she found something everyone will want to see. Cut to her leading them to Andy's room. She gestures to a suitcase and Olivia's mom digs in. Oh ho ho, she finds the Christmas diamond in Andy's luggage. Andy gasps. It's the next morning. Apparently no one has called the police, and instead they just all went to bed. Andy proclaims her innocence to her friend Olivia and Olivia's mom and whoever else is standing there. I don't remember. But then it's almost like this scene is separated by time, but it would have been better if it wasn't later, because then Amelia says, oh really? Look at this. Look what else I found in your luggage. And it's the little ceramic fucking statue that she put in her pocket when she was thrown off earlier. And now Andy looks like she's a real thief. Olivia's mom calls Detective Billings, the detective that stopped by earlier. The mystery writer mentions that she noticed there are security cameras around. Apparently Liam installed them. We cut to them reviewing footage of the main entryway when the power went out. It exonerates Andy, except Olivia, her buddy, says, not so fast. There's actually a second way out of the kitchen that she was in when the power went out. And we find out there's an elevator that leads to the basement, and it could have led her to going to the basement to cut the power, and then coming back and acting like she's all innocent. Andy promises that's not true, but Olivia is now not so sure of her best friend, not her best friend, but her good friend. Andy is now suspect number one. She asks the mystery writer what she thinks might have happened, and the mystery writer does in fact run through a series of events that she thinks could have happened, but unfortunately they paint Andy as the villain here, as the thief. Andy says, well, okay, that may be the case, but what if I can poke 3 holes in your theory? Would you then agree that there's a chance I might not be the person here that did this? The writer accepts. Andy says, fine, there's only one thing I need, and that is to interrogate people. We get a montage of Andy and the mystery writer asking people questions. It mostly focuses on a possible disagreement between Uncle Gary and Olivia's mom about money. But then the detective calls and lets Olivia's mom know that he'll be by the next afternoon. That's how long Andy has now to figure out who did it. Back to questioning. There's too much to note here, so I'll summarize. We find out the chef, who is, don't forget, another visitor to the house. The chef, a Michelin star chef, he went outside during the blackout. We also find out Liam went upstairs during the blackout to look for the circuit breaker while his uncle went to the basement. Liam says that he didn't know where it was, whereas his uncle apparently did know where the circuit breaker was, but it makes Liam look suspicious. Anyway, time for Andy's 3 holes she's going to poke in the writer's theory. 1, it involved using the elevator to come back from the basement after turning off the power. The problem is the elevator runs on electricity, so she wouldn't be able to use the elevator. Number 2, one of the parts of the theory was that Andy has a motive to steal it because she is the least wealthy. She's a normal person compared to everybody else here with great money. And after talking to so many people, it's realized that a lot of them could use money too. So the motive that Andy would be the one to get the most out of having this necklace, that's also been had a hole poked in it. And lastly, number 3, it's also possible the writer did it because the events of this movie very much mirror a book that she wrote, and it's possible she's, I don't know, doing what happened in her book. I don't get it, but that's enough for the writer to say, okay, you've poked 3 holes in my theory. I now no longer believe you are necessarily the person who did this, and we can team up to figure out who did this. Fast forward to the middle of the night. Someone sneaks into Andy's room while she's sleeping and leaves her a note. The next morning, it's Christmas Eve. Andy awakens and sees the note. It's a card from the fake version of Clue that she wanted to play. I forgot. I did mention it was an off-brand version of Clue called Who Done It. Anyway, this is a card from that game, and it features a character drawn on it, and it's the character of the thief. Andy thinks this has to mean something. We get Andy talking to Olivia, her friend, after, I don't know, recent evidence has been unveiled. Olivia no longer thinks her friend Andy did it. Then Andy, thinking about the note that was left for her, realized that the card was in an envelope, and the envelope had her name typed on it, like a typewriter type. And she asks Olivia, do you have any typewriters here? And eventually they find one in her mom's office. And when she types out her name using that typewriter, it matches exactly the way her name looks on the envelope. So that's the typewriter that was used. Unfortunately, even though it was in her mom's office, anyone had access to that room. But this gives Andy an idea. There's one person they haven't talked to yet, the chef. They go to look for him in the kitchen. They notice he's not there. They also notice that the remote control that opens the front gate is also missing. They race out to see if he's there, and sure enough, they find the chef making his way for the gate. Olivia jumps in front of him to block his way, so he heads back into the house, and nobody can find him. Everyone's looking for the chef. Where could the chef be? While searching for him, we get a scene with Andy and Liam chatting about. She asks him how much money he owns to his bookie because we found out earlier he's a big-time gambler. He admits that he owes him $150,000, so this now gives him a definitive reason to want to have stolen the diamond. By the way, the diamond has already been returned. Don't forget, Liam's ex-fiancée found it in Andy's bag. And this movie just keeps on going. Who stole it? Who stole it? Even though it's been returned. While they're talking about Andy's gambling debts, we see someone watching them on the security cameras. Then there's a scream. It appears as if Olivia's mom was pushed down the stairs. Cut to the police having arrived. The detective that she's friends with takes over, asking everyone questions about what happened to Olivia's mom. Cut to Liam watching security footage of it. He sees his mom walking down the steps, and then the video cuts, and she's suddenly on the floor. Someone edited the security footage. Then Andy and Liam hear sounds from the kitchen. They go there. They find the chef hiding in there. He tries to escape, but then Liam catches him. The police put handcuffs on him as the detective interrogates him. Andy and the mystery writer are allowed to sit in during this interrogation. The chef proclaims that he did not steal the diamond, but there is something he's hiding, and they push him to tell the truth. And it turns out that his restaurant that he runs has not been doing well, and he borrowed money legally from Olivia's mom. But then his restaurant was still doing bad, so then he borrowed money illegally from Olivia's mom by stealing it from a safe that he knew how to access. But the good news is he was planning on returning the money that he had stolen that very night when the power went out. So when the power went out, he went into the office and put the money back. Unfortunately, this still looks bad for the old chef, and he gets arrested for stealing money. But he's not arrested for stealing the diamond. The detective says he doesn't really know who did that yet, and he'll be back the very next day to help figure out who stole this diamond. For now, the chef is going to jail. After all of this commotion, Andy implies to the mystery writer that she might know something. Cut to Andy taking a shower. While she's in there, someone leaves another envelope on the sink. When she comes out of the shower, she sees it, and inside is a card for another character from the game, the Prowler. We follow Andy as she looks around the office where the safe was that had the money in it that the chef took. The Prowler card gives her an idea. She walks outside of the office to where a window is that lets you get into the office and notices some big old footprints at the base of the wall where the window is that leads into the office. There's some footprints in the mud, you see. Cut to her telling the mystery writer about what she's found. She says if we can match the shoes to the footprints, we might find the thief that broke into the office. They start with Liam's ex-fiancée. As they talk to her, they get a more human side of this woman. She apologizes for trying to win Liam back and for accusing Andy. The next morning, everyone comes downstairs to a fully set table. Each place setting has an envelope with someone's name on it. We find out Andy set this all up, and she invites them to join her for a very special meal. She's even invited the detective to join them. She wants everyone to play a new game that she's come up with called To Catch a Thief. It turns out each envelope that sits in front of each person includes a card from the game Who Done It. And each one of these cards features a different character with a different role. For example, the mystery writer gets the character of the detective. Olivia, Andy's friend, gets the character of the innocent. Liam gets the character of the gambler. Andy stops there and reviews what happened the night of the theft. She then has Uncle Gary's daughter unveil her card. She is called the liar. It turns out that she's been lying about where she's going to school, and in fact she's already dropped out of school. This does not matter to the overall plot of the movie, but it's just a character element that they can use to further this game of the liar. Anyway, then she has Olivia's mom open her card. It's the lover. This leads to an accusation of Olivia's mom actually sleeping with two different people and then having kids with each of them. And you're like, well, what does that matter? It doesn't. But what it does, though, it does tie into something from the beginning of the movie when Liam, one of her children, was getting that DNA test because he suspected he might have a different father than his sister, Olivia. It turns out he was right to suspect it. Anyway, Amelia pulls out her card. The schemer. Amelia is Liam's ex-fiancée, so she gets the schemer card. Eventually, Andy focuses on Uncle Gary. She accuses him of rigging electricity being used to trigger the outage. For example, he asked for coffee, and Andy went to go make coffee at the right time. He also installed Christmas lights. That's what we first saw him doing when Andy first arrives. So basically, she's accusing him of having a lot of things going electrically, which would have caused the circuit to break. And that would cause the power outage. She then has his wife open up her card, and it's the opportunist, because apparently she was in on this. Lastly, she has Gary. She also explains the footprints. They were the boots he wore as Santa Claus. She has those boots, and they match the footprints, but outside of the office window. She eventually has Gary pull out his card. It's the cheater. It turns out he was cheating on his wife, unbeknownst to his wife, cheating on her with Bridget the butler, who pulls out her card, the harlot. This has nothing to do with anything, but the butler does admit that she spilled the drink that she spilled on Gary's wife on purpose because she was mad at how she was behaving, and the fact that she was sleeping with his husband. This is getting way too confusing. Anyway, Andy then says Gary stole the diamond during the blackout, but when the heat became too much, he put it in Andy's things. As for when Olivia's mom fell down the steps, she accuses him of using a tripwire to make her fall, so that if something terrible had happened to her, for example, if she died, he would inherit the residence, she would inherit her money. I don't know why her kids wouldn't, but it doesn't really matter. When this is all laid out, Gary tries to make a run for it, but is quickly arrested. Afterward, Olivia's mom apologizes to Andy for how she treated her. Olivia then talks to the mystery writer. It turns out she's the one who left the notes for Andy to find. Eventually, she gets some time with Liam. He admits that he really likes Andy and asks her to do something on New Year's Eve with him. She accepts, And then she points out that they're underneath the mistletoe, so they kiss for the second time. The end. This movie was fine. I wish I didn't have to write notes for while watching this movie. I think it would be approximately twice as good, which I don't know if that means it would be good overall, but it would have been a lot better if I didn't have to take notes while watching this movie. It was very hard to take notes, but suffice to say, it was fine. If you want to watch a mystery movie, and if you listen to this, you don't mind knowing who did it, go ahead and check out The Case of the Christmas Diamond. MVP, I'm going to go ahead and pick Andy for this. She had a very winning spirit, a very charming demeanor, and, it was easy to follow her along in her mystery untangling. Let's see. That's it. I think we're done. So let's wrap up this season. We're done it. We made it through 60 episodes. We made it through 60 movies, and we did it in 60 days. I cannot believe it's true. The first time in this series history where I've actually finished every component within the 60 days. And for that, I'm very proud. And if you've listened to these, I'm also proud that you have listened to them as well. Thank you for joining along. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for making this worthwhile, or at least more worthwhile. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I appreciate this challenge. I can say with almost certainty that I cannot imagine ever doing this again. But that is not to say that I won't talk about Christmas movies next year. Maybe I will find another way to do this that is both challenging and satisfying, and you can follow along and we can have a good time next year. Until then, my friends, take care and enjoy for the last time. Enjoy some Jingle Bells. Take care.